Now, secretive and elite, the Bilderberg Group, which unites some of the world's most powerful people, has been meeting behind closed doors for decades. Its activities have become shrouded in a mist of conspiracy theories, with some claiming the members are trying to create a new world order. Well, one investigative journalist has just revealed to the European Parliament all he claims to have discovered about the Bilderbergers. And Daniel Estulin joins me now live from Brussels. Many thanks for joining us this evening, Mr. Estulin. So tell us more about what you found out about the group and what you believe it does.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I found out over almost 20 years of research that what's today is called the Bilderberg Group already existed over 800 years ago. They were back then called the Venetian Black Nobility. In fact, Bilderberg is the creation of the Synarchy movement of empires, who are the plenipotentiary founders and financiers of Hitler. And Synarchy International, they in turn were founded by the Martinist Freemason Esoteric Secret Society back in the 1770s as a kind of counterattack on the principles upon which the United States of America was built. So again, it's a lot of people speak of Bilderberg as a domain of conspiracy theories. Of course, it's not. It's a historical fact. And again, what's today called Bilderberg 800 years ago existed. It was called back then the Venetian Black Nobility.
So interesting to hear that background. But what is it that you believe the group actually does today? And what evidence do you have to back up your claims?
Well, the interesting thing is that a lot of people believe that Bilderberg is about one world government or creating the new world order, especially people point out to speech made by George W. Bush back in the 1990s about the creation of one world government. It's not about that at all. It's a meeting of people who represent a particular ideology. That ideology is of money. So the idea is not to create one world government, but rather the creation of one world company limited, where the financial concerns are far more powerful than any government on earth. And we're seeing right now as evidence, very, very simple. We had to see in Europe, we had nation states. We had countries with our own constitutions, our own flags, our own currencies, our own monetary policies, and now we don't have any of that. The entire Europe is being led and directed through Brussels. In that sense, Spain, where I live, it has a currency. We lost it. We had a constitution. That's now subordinate to the European constitution. Spanish flag is no longer ours. It's the European flag with little stars. And of course, the monetary policy is decided somewhere else. And we can see what they're doing, and Greece is a very good example of that destruction, we're witnessing, and Spain, of course, is going to be the next country to go.
So why was the European Parliament so interested in hearing about your findings, and what reaction did you get?
Well, actually, the European Parliament was profoundly upset that I'm here. I was invited by Liga Norte, by Mario Borghesio, one of the senior European representatives from Italy, who came across Bilderberg actually in the Italian version of my book about 8 months ago. Well, he didn't know that these people existed, and the fact that some of the key decision-making process over the past 60 years were taking at Bilderberg obviously surprised and astonished him. And so through him, I was invited to make a speech, a historic speech, in fact, at the European Parliament about the Bilderbergers and their roots, which was called Bilderberg towards One World Company Limited.
So can you give us some names, some examples? Who is actually a part of this so-called Bilderberg Group?
Well, this is the old NATO alliance. So you're talking about the European presidents, Prime Minister of Canada, the sitting president of the United States, top 50, 60 CEOs of the world's leading corporations, American senators and congressmen, European commissioners, all of the European royalty, of course, is present. Finally, talking about as well the leading bankers, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the European Central Bank, the World Bank, and finally they're joined, and we have a lot of noise. I hope you can still hear me. We're joined at this one big table at the Bilderberg conference by the leading representatives of world media, such as New York Times, Washington Post. And the fact that you have 120 of these mammoth representatives in one room, and the fact that the press never ever reports on them until my book came out, by itself is astonishing.
Fascinating theories. And what impact do you think that your findings in your speech to the European Parliament will have on the group, if any? Briefly, if you can.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat that, because, again, there's a lot of noise coming from people to my right.
No, that's fine. Just very briefly, if you can, what impact do you think that your findings and your speech that you gave to the European Parliament will have on the group, if any?
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be, an effect of an atomic bomb going off right in the middle of the parliament. A lot, obviously not literally, but figurative. The point is that Borghesio, that's Lega Norte group, is getting hundreds of calls from curious Italian media representatives who actually have never heard of Bilderbergers themselves, and so they want to know exactly how the decisions made at this very private organization fit into the world scheme. And Russia, in this particular sense, is very much a part of it, or victim of it, as I reported back in 2005. By the summer 2008, Bilderbergers at their meeting talked about pushing the oil price to about $150 a barrel, and then they decided to push the oil price down, orchestrating it fall to about $30 a barrel. And it directly affects Russia because, again, China and Russia are the two main enemies of the people who are trying to create this one world government. And Russia having a lot of oil, if you can actually destroy the oil price and push it down, you're destroying Russia's economy. And China, on the other hand, which has no oil to speak of, anything you make requires a lot of oil. So by pushing the oil price, by orchestrating, the price at $147.50 a barrel, you're destroying the Chinese economy. So yes, Russia, is, needless to say, has been on the receiving end of the Bilderberger planning and scheming.
Okay, fascinating theories and a frightening thought, a figurative atomic bomb taking off in the European Parliament today. Okay, for now, many thanks. That was investigative journalist Daniel Estulin talking to us from Brussels.